Yeah.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so we're talking about wealth disparity right now, right?
Yeah.
And basically the difference between the small correlation between wealth and intelligence.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
if there wasn't this much of um, advantages towards people uh, uh, close to the government, close to the sources of money, or uh, close to like all those loopholes,
hmm
there would probably be like the wealth disparity between the richest and the poorest would be essentially very close to this teeny tiny correlation between wealth and intelligence that is now. This
right.
correlation is tiny. It's like, I don't know, 1 or 2% steepness, like the tangent of the line of the
hmm
correlation line. It is very small, and mm, and basically that would be it if the world was like free, right?
Yeah, free from
So
government regulation and free from I mean, once you get rid of government regulation, the loopholes go away
yeah,
because
uh,
that's how people get their advantage. It's like there's a tax loophole that they can exploit that the commoner does not understand, and if there if there was no loophole to begin with, if there was no regulation to begin with, there would be nothing to exploit, and everyone would already be on the equal playing field. So,
yeah, and the only differences would be those that we can see today,
right,
which are like correlated
merit.
uh, to merit, yeah, to
Yeah,
merit, and those correlations are small, so those differences wouldn't be
right,
very significant at all.
right,
So that would be just better for everyone. I mean, not
right.
for those who are close to the, to the power today.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
one would be very worse off, very much worse off.
yeah. But I mean, like, screw those people. They've had it easy for too long. It's it's
Yeah,
it's time for everything to be fair, and
yeah,
that's not to conflate fairness with equality because there will always be in unequal outcomes in reality.
yeah.
But
Of course.
the point is about everyone starting off at the same pace, or not the same pace. Everyone's starting off from the same point.
Yeah, and before we started, you mentioned legacy wealth, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So the uh, LWMA, left wing market anarchists, have this concept of centrifugal effect of wealth. That the more you have of it, the faster it can like dissipates to the environment. Because I mean, if there is no like power guarding it, if there's no
Right.
trenches around it and fences, um, mm, so all those private planes, yeah, they spend a lot of it, right? So
hmm
they
Yeah. I mean, without those moats protecting their wealth status or their bracket of wealth class, it dissipates much faster.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
especially for the people who spend it irresponsibly. And that goes into the issue with people who are closest to the generation of money and the creation of money and the creation of wealth and the creation of regulation is that um, even though they spend it frivolously, their wealth class is still protected by those moats, basically.
yeah.
They're
uh,
protected from the dissipation.
like with banks collapsing, banks don't no longer collapse at all.
Right.
They have no responsibility, they have no consequences of their
Right.
of their like frivolous
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
actions. They
Because
they just get bailed out.
yeah, we've collectivized the consequences of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that like they can privatize the benefits, but they collectivize the costs and
yeah,
the burden, which is totally backwards and psychotic. And like that's the kind of thing, those are the kind of things that should stop immediately. Like if government and Congress and the Senate, and I'm talking about American government branches, but if the executive branch, the Senate and the Congress and the judicial branch all understood the psychotic nature of what's happening, they would stop it immediately. But they're so lost in it, and they've convinced themselves it's a good thing through modern monetary theory or modern banking strategies or quantitative easing or any other number of things. They've just they've convinced themselves that it's a net positive, but I think it's such a net negative because um, bailing out banks collectively isn't something that we agreed to. Like I didn't agree to bailing out JP Morgan. They just
I
they unilaterally decided this.
yeah, I didn't sign any social contract. The classic,
Yeah.
the classic, right? But you think they don't know, or they benefit from it?
Yeah.
What do you think? You
Oh,
think they don't
I
know?
totally think it's both. I think there's two classes. There's one
Yeah,
class that understands what's going on
yeah,
and they like the fact that they're on top. Um, and then there's another class of useful idiots that perpetuate the idea, and they're basically the pawns of these people
yeah,
who actually understand how this all works. They understand that it's theft. They understand that it's unfair. They understand that the game theory of it is toxic, but they just don't care. Um,
yeah.
and
And the
I,
rest, maybe it's like their wealth depends on not understanding it, so they kind of don't want to understand it as well.
yeah, yeah, there's definitely this like fear of knowing what's actually happening that prevents people from, because I can think of many times where I was afraid to know the truth about things.
Mhm.
And I can see that definitely take like happening to other people in power where they don't want to know the truth because they know it would ruin them, it would ruin their way of life. So I think
Oh,
just
by the way, I just I just remembered. Some time ago, I posted on the Ergon Telegram an information how the Polish central bank um, places giant banners on top of the building, like huge, like like 10 meters long and
Mhm.
5 meters high. Um, Banners that say anyone blaming the central bank for inflation is spewing the Kremlin propaganda,
Yeah.
and the reason there is inflation is COVID pandemic and Putin aggression on Ukraine, and those are the only reasons. And anyone who says otherwise, and they had cars running around with a like a banner all around the town, I mean all around the not the town, all around the capital city. So yeah, and what came out, like I read about it today. uh,
Hmm.
there was a report that precisely quantified when the inflation started and how all the dynamics came,
Hmm.
how it all happened, and it proved that it had no correlation to the war on Ukraine. It started before that. It started before COVID,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
and it shows exactly how it goes up uninterruptedly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And imagine
Uh,
that. The guy who published it is now questioned by the oh man, how are they called? They called those prosecutors. Yeah, the general prosecutor of Poland. Where did he get this secret document that was internal document of the central bank?
Where did he get it?
Yeah, where did he get it? Because he got it illegally. It was a leak, and then they are now searching who leaked that, right? but
Yeah.
but it still proves that this is all true. The central bank knew
Oh
it
yeah.
was true. They and it shows how they
Yeah.
wasted all those money on those billboards, showing
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
lies. That this is proven lies.
Yeah.
It's proven that it's lies.
Yeah. I mean the whole leaker situation reminds me of Edward Snowden in America
Yeah,
because
yeah,
he got caught leaking about the government basically spying on every individual American because of post 9/11 terrorism excuses to spy on everyone.
yeah.
And the main story was, look at this whistleblower. We have to prosecute this whistleblower. And it wasn't about the fact that they were spying on everyone without everyone knowing about it. It's just disgusting. And then
Yeah.
uh, and then this we're talking about propaganda at this point, and it reminds me of the guy who was considered the pioneer of propaganda in America. So there's
Cool.
propaganda before this, of course. Like propaganda is probably as old as time, when you think about it. But Edward Louis Bernays was known as the American pioneer of public relations. So they called propaganda public relations. Interfacing with the public was the idea of propaganda. So they put a nice cute name to it so it wouldn't sound so bad. Um, and his best known campaign was labeling cigarettes or branding cigarettes as torches of freedom to bypass the health issues. This is
Torches of freedom.
and then
Beautiful.
and then later on in the 1950s, he was connected with the CIA orchestrated overthrow of the democratically elected Guatemalan government in 1954.
Whoa.
So, I mean, propaganda is powerful, and it writes history, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, the Germans they used propaganda to push their, well, not the Germans, but like the Nazi Germans. They
yeah,
they used propaganda to push their campaigns. And yeah, it's mostly all propaganda. I mean, these lies that like that inflation was caused by COVID. No, it's the other way around. Like COVID was a scapegoat for the inflation that was already happening.
yeah.
And all you have to do is look at the incentives. I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Munger or someone before him. I think it was someone before him, but someone said, if you show me the incentives, I will show you the outcome. And
I don't know
that
who said.
that sentence always stuck with me because
Yeah,
if you look at the government spending, they basically get to choose to create money out of thin air politically, um, for whatever agendas they want. And because they're so close to the creation of money, they get most of the vig. They get sort of like they get part of the money that was generated because they're so
yes,
close to
yes.
it. So
Cantillon effect, right? You
yeah, the
said it's how it
Cantillon
works.
effect. Yes, yeah. The redistribution of purchasing power, as Wikipedia puts it. And I think it's ridiculous to blame something like a pandemic on something that's so inherently incentivized in the system. It's basically you get elected into this office, you get the free money, you get the unlimited money button, you get the life hack of free unlimited money, and it all goes down on your it all goes down on your brethren, but um, I know
So
we're
it's
basically tax slaves at this point.
yeah. So it's like moral hazard, right? It's moral
Yeah,
hazard.
yeah,
Uh,
moral hazard.
that reminds me of like the introduction to the denationalization of money by Frederick Hayek, and he said he that he was furious about. Oh, my video crashed.
It's okay. I can still hear you.
Yeah, so he was talking about how he yeah, how he was feeling more and more desperately uh, about solving inflation,
Hmm.
while the mm, uh, solution seemed so obvious and simple, but he noticed the core problem of the issue is that uh, there are incentives against it, right?
Yeah.
That was the core of the issue with the inflation, that those incentives are there, and
Hmm.
government won't just stop printing money, right?
Right.
Because that was the solution. Just don't print them more money than there is
Than is
required.
needed. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
than is needed, and this was simple.
Stop outpacing supply with demand. It should be simple, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That cures inflation. But instead they continue inflation. They do it in seven different ways from Sunday, through taxes, through quantitative easing, through any number of policies and strategies. It's just or taxing like there's 18,000 different types of taxes that can hit you. I mean, the inflation and the redistribution of wealth. I guess I broadened it to redistribution as well. But there's just going back to inflation alone. Yeah, it's innate to the system. It should be a simple solution like spend like print less than there is demand for, but
yeah,
they come up with excuses to print more because it's about modern monetary policy isn't just about stabilizing the currency. It's about stimulating the economy, which is a totally
yeah,
subjective concept. Like to how much the economy needs stimulation.
yeah. And
That's
they
not
just
a
get to
human.
decide.
That's not something for a centralized party to decide.
Yeah,
Like the economy only needs as much as stimulation as the market demands. So when there's less demand for liquidity, there's less need for stimulation. When there's more demand for liquidity, there's more need for stimulation. Um, or there's no need for stimulation, actually, I guess is
yeah.
what I'm
Like when you
getting at.
fake stimulate, you cause the cycles, right? You cause the
Yes,
economic cycles, because you faked the profitability. You faked the profitability of
precisely.
undertakings.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Stimulants are just like, we talk about drug addiction in this
Yeah,
around the world, but we don't see the problem with using stimulants to get the economy going. But it's a
yeah,
perfect metaphor. Eventually the high wears off and you crash.
yeah.
And
That's a good analogy. That's a good analogy.
I just I wish the people in charge of the monetary policy weren't so freaking stupid. Like they have all these brilliant math equations and they're brilliant people, but the fundamental idea behind it is so incredibly flawed that like a 2-year-old could point it out. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's lack of the bird's eye picture. Like they get the order to
Yeah.
set a target for
Yeah.
what the government demands, and they just do everything to hit the target, and they do it correctly. They actually pull it off, but the
Hmm.
target was wrong in the first place, and they weren't empowered to to have this target different,
Yeah.
they even shouldn't be in power. There should be, decentralized, denationalized money like Ergon.
Oh yeah. I would love for a world run on Ergon. Just no like inherent collectivized bailouts, stable money, no toxic incentives for politicians. I mean, I was talking about this the other day with my friend because he asked me why I was so obsessed with crypto for the past like 7 years. And I told him it was because if you can solve the money problem, you solve the root of basically every societal issue that has plagued us since, you know, since pre-Christ era. Like these problems have been here forever, and it all boils down to who controls the money. So if you leave the money up to the free market, like Hayek suggested, it solves a shitload of problems. Like and that, like
Yeah.
I actually can't I never run out of things that fixing the money problem wouldn't solve. It would
Yeah.
create like a border, not a true utopia because true utopia is unattainable in my opinion, but it would create a borderline utopia where there's still problems, but it's not like systemic issues that are plaguing humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think the problem that we won't solve this way will be just plain old violence, right?
Mhm.
Like the
Sure,
physical violence, like people being able to force other people to do something.
sure.
Because mm, what we would need for that is like my favorite thought experiment. Uh, uh, a force field. I always say this, that what would create a true anarchy, like the ordered anarchy, order without any power, or domination. That would be essentially personal force fields, but commonly distributed to everyone, like everyone
Hmm.
can afford one, everyone has one, and they are um, completely impenetrable.
Yeah,
And if we had that, then, well, the government just collapse. They just collapse because people are suddenly protected from any physical harm,
yeah,
so they can just refuse to pay taxes, and any cooperation has to happen voluntarily.
yes,
And in my opinion, that would lead to amazing outcomes, because uh, uh, you know people would have to actually cooperate, not force one another to something. uh,
yeah,
and yeah, like all those parasitic behaviors would vanish. Like the only enemy would be memes. Then
yeah. It would
probably
just
only memes.
be warfare of ideas at that
Yeah,
point,
that would be a warfare of ideas. Yeah, like
which is
exploiting biases in people to convince them to put their shield down and enter.
yeah, yeah. But even AI could reduce that.
Yeah.
AI could point out the exploitations happening to you in real time and be like,
Yeah.
"Look, you're trying to be deceived right now. Be cautious." It would be like an anti-phishing scam, but
Wow, that is so awesome. I never thought of that. I never thought of that. Like, ask it to identify
yeah,
biases and manipulation, like common manipulation strategies within the text you're reading right now,
yeah,
and you see plainly that I don't know, people, like when people say men can have children, right? But
yeah, yeah,
right, but then someone pulls back and says, "Oh, but I don't mean men as in male sex. That's undefensible. when you
Yeah.
push against that. But I mean the gender, right?
Hmm.
And now you know, and the AI would tell you that that was Balian model, right? Kind of manipulation. That was like proposing something that is indefensible. But then when that is attacked, you just pull out to a safe area that you can actually defend.
Yeah,
Right.
and because I mean, like, so much of political alignment comes from purely manipulation. Like,
Yeah.
people say this, but like, you have more in common with the moderate person from the opposite political party than you do with the extremist person from your political party.
Yeah.
And it's very true. I mean, if you could just get past the semantics and the nuances of
Yeah.
conversation and manipulative subtext, you can overcome a lot. Because I mean, uh, yeah, like the whole men can have a child. Like if someone was there to clearly tell you, like, no, they're talking about like gender identity. They're not talking about biological sex.
Yeah.
Um, it would clear things up instantly, and then everyone is on the same page. They're not speaking
Yeah.
different languages. So yeah, it's a good use case for AI. Um,
Yeah. I wonder
AI,
if it would recognize the Balian model here.
I think it could, because like I think people get duped emotionally, not logically. It's not the logics that confuse people. It's the emotional driven response that tricks people. You know, they grow up thinking that um, you know, gender identity and sex is the same thing, and
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of
That's
them.
an equivocation, right? That's another you know common like I don't know if that's cognitive
Cognitive
I don't know how.
dissonance.
Yeah, I mean like a mistaken communication, like it's equivocation, that when you call something with two different things with the same name, right?
Yeah.
And assert that they have the same properties even if they don't, right? So when you can speak of a man meaning sex, and you can speak of a man meaning gender, and those are not the same things, and they are called with the same name. And that's confusing,
Right.
and and like not recognizing that it is there, like the equivocation is there, uh,
Yeah.
can cause misunderstanding, right? Or
Oh yeah.
that may be purposeful confusion, who knows,
Oh yeah. 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 I
probably
think
depends on the case.
I'm a strong believer that most of conflict and war actually comes from misunderstanding each other. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we're really hitting like the nail on the head when it comes to utilizing technology like AI to minimize misunderstanding, because that's probably one of the goals to mitigating conflict. Like we're talking about solving systemic issues. So there's systemic monetary issues and systemic societal issues. And the monetary issues can be fixed through something like Ergon, and the societal issues can be fixed through something like augmented artificial intelligence over your own intelligence.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, like a lens that helps you see through the biases,
yeah,
mm, the
yeah,
mm,
because we're all
the
stricken with
manipulation.
biases,
Yeah.
and if you, yeah, it just sucks because I know so many people who are extremely left leaning politically and extremely right leaning politically, and I'm like, I just think to myself, you guys have no idea how much you agree if you just
Yeah.
if you just had a common language to communicate with. It's just that they're both using different languages that they come into conflict.
Yeah, I've seen recently on Twitter, there was an argument between a left wing anarchist and anarcho capitalist, and one called the anarcho capitalist bootlicker, and another said, um, why would you say that? I also don't want. I don't agree with the boot, and but the other one says that you support the corporation, and then he says, I don't support corporations. Show me a corporation, I will see a monopoly granted by the government. I think to myself, this dude is basically a left wing market anarchist with a different language,
Hmm.
right? Uh, they say basically the same thing but with different language, and it makes no sense that they would argue
Yeah.
till the end, and one will defend capitalism but understanding capitalism as simply free markets, while the other would understand capitalism as this weird connection between free markets and government. And one would say capitalism can't exist without the government. So you're basically supporting government. Like, this is just a miscommunication. This is just the difference of languages.
Hmm. Yeah.
Why are you guys doing this? It's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah. That's our problem with every human. Like forget about regional languages. Every human has their own language. Like they say, like every single individual that knows you has a different image of who you are,
Yeah.
and there's nobody actually knows the real you, and that can kind of be that can be a good analogy to how language works. Everyone really speaks a different language, and it's hard to it's hard to find like universal language that reaches everyone, because like you say, like the similarities between people who are pro free market and the people who are for socialism is actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, left wing market anarchists are basically convinced that socialism will be achieved through free markets. It's essentially what we said at the beginning, that without those leverages that
Mhm. Yeah,
people close to the power have, uh,
yeah,
there
yeah,
would be equality and what they would call socialism,
yeah.
because
Because that's
everyone
their
would.
their that's their idea of socialism. Their idea of socialism is putting like I guess I'm talking about communism, but I don't really know. I don't know the nuanced differences, but what I'm getting at is that the the point was to put the means of production into the hands of the people
Yeah,
to make it fair, to decentralize it, and
yeah,
that's kind of what free markets want to do, is
yeah. That's
decentralize
essentially
things.
what the original anarchist Proudhon was saying. He was mutualist. He supported very strongly free
Yeah,
markets, and the ownership of the means of production by
yeah,
each person, not by like the collective, like it would be in Marxism, but like being self-employed.
hmm,
That would be, you own your means of production. You're not renting anything. You have your own tools. You go fix someone's
yeah,
faucet, right?
yeah,
You're a plumber.
yeah,
You
and
own your means of production. It's
that's a
great.
that's a very individualistic, um, libertine way of thinking.
Yeah, and he called for socialism, and he said property is theft, but he didn't mean property as we often do. He didn't mean like you shouldn't own anything and you should be happy, right? But proper in his language, like, again, we have
It's a
a
language problem.
language issue. If you read what he actually means by property, he means the right to own something,
Yeah,
as compared to the fact of having something. Like, if you,
ownership. Yeah,
yeah,
property versus
like
ownership.
yeah, proper.
Possession.
He used the word possession. Yeah, that was two modes of ownership. property and possession. And he said property is theft, but possession is fine. And
Yeah.
yeah, and the only way you can own Ergon right now, I mean, at least right now, when no government is involved, is precisely possession. You can't,
Private keys.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have any right to have an Ergon.
Yeah.
You don't have any right to, to have it when you don't have it, right?
Yeah. And yeah, because like not your keys, not your coins. That's always
Exactly.
been a famous statement. But do we have a right to anything at all? Like, do we have a right to human life, or is that a social construct?
That's a permission, not a right.
A permission. A
Yeah,
permission.
that's a temporary permission by the government. They can execute you. Why not?
Yeah. 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 I wonder if is there any rights whatsoever at all? Or do you have to be religious to believe that?
Tough question. I don't know. I don't know. Or those are all permissions.
Yeah.
Depends if we are just subjects, or you know, or we actually have power to defend ourselves. To actually establish anything. I mean,
Like,
if we have the power, then those are not rights. Those are facts, right?
mhm. like like if everything was like uh everything was encrypted end to end all the time over the internet, um privacy would be a fact, not a right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That would be just a fact, that wouldn't be a right. So we basically, mm, like maybe if we define a right as something that someone will force for you, right, like a permission from someone, and the promise to enforce that against other people, uh, if that is violated. Maybe that by that definition we do have rights, but you know they are based on
Yeah.
on the goodwill of someone who enforces that.